creek. Yay! Yay!
Looks like we have a few guys here already. Jump in the water where
Whereas the Canadians say it's starting to chooch. Get him in there, you got it. Take your time, they'll go for a long time.
There you go.
There it goes. Awesome. So you can take a piece of leather, take the flesh side of it, and get it real wet, and it's real pliable, almost like a piece of silicone sheet. And you can pick up sand and fine grit out of a creek bed and use it to polish something. Then the other thing you can do is use it as a pot holder to grab something. So I think a little patch of leather in your kit is a really handy thing. You can make it into something too. It's a piece of material to make a Watson out of it. So I have a little patch of it in my kit.
So we're at the Bushcraft Meetup, and me and Andy's making sheaths for some hatchets that need sheaths. And what kind of hatchet did you say this was?
It's a strayed SCHF or SCHL
And it comes with a snap-together plastic sheath that he doesn't like.
for demonstration purposes.
Yeah. So he's making a leather sheath for it. And he's,
Thank you very much for your help, by the way.
No problem. And then this is my throwing hawk that I won at the 18th century swap meet, flea market. And this is the sheath that I'm making for it.
Hello Ken, this is my reenactment tent from the 1700s. We use it at the Rendezvous in Vincennes, Indiana, and we'll be there Memorial Day weekend.
Now this is reenactment of which war?
Of when Clark takes the fort at Vincennes.
Awesome. Well, this is canvas.
Yes sir it is. Fire resistant, waterproof, and we're cheating with the...
Yeah, the cots are a little different.
Yeah, we're cheating with the cots this year. But don't have no floor. And last night the cave crickets was on the inside of the tarp, and they was making the tarp rustle.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they was pretty loud last night. I thought I was going to lose my son because I told him about it, and he's usually sleeping at that time.
Yeah. Well, now this is fireproof.
Fireproof.
Water resistant.
And water resistant.
Was it that way in the old times?
No. In the old times, it would have been treated with a linseed or maybe a tar or maybe beeswax. It depends a lot. There was a lot of different recipes per time. It was more like a family recipe that they would treat the canvas with. And some of them wasn't even treated. It was just the cotton would swell up and make it waterproof or semi-waterproof.
Yep.
And then when you're using the wool, you're not going to get too wet. And if you do, it'll insulate you still. So, I mean, it's all around good.
Excellent.
We have a War Bonnet Blackbird hammock. We have a Hennessy tarp. And I've got some 55-gallon drum liners down the bottom so I don't get leaves all over my feet before I stick them in my sleeping bag. We got the built-in bug net here. Got some tie downs to kind of hold out. Over here is my shelf. I can kind of stow extra stuff. And on the inside, I've got a little light Cabela's 30-degree, bag, little Field and Stream pillow, and underneath, in between the double netting, I have my Thermarest pad.
That looks comfortable.
So the Thermarest pad kept me from getting cold because I've gotten cold in the hammock before.
Yeah.
Because I don't have an underquilt or anything. And I tell you what, it slept great. At first, I was too hot. Actually, I had to completely get out of it, and then towards the middle of the night I just kind of cozied up, grabbed it, twisted over on my side a little bit, and slept like a baby. So I'm very very happy with the setup.
Looks good. Too bad we don't have bad weather to really test it.
I know. I was laying there last night and I was like, man, I kind of wish a thunderstorm would rip through just so I could see how well, you know, these stakes hold in, how much wind it could take before it starts acting silly.
I bet this will hold up.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it, man. I really am.
Tell me about it.
Well, the tarp is over 25 years old. I had it in the military. The sleeping bag is a Chotui made by Alex. It's an integrated underquilt and double hammock. And it has you can get it with a bug net, or you can get it with what I call an environment top. The environment top just lays over and folds down, but it actually works as a good bug net. And I got the hammock, and it comes in and it straps in.
Well, let's look at the tarp.
And if you're interested, this is the 20 degree, down to 20 degrees. It's made by Chotui Hammock Company at shellhammocks.com. Made by Alex. When you come in, this is the under hammock here. It's integrated in, and you have a equipment pouch right here on both ends. Then you have the integrated double hammock right here. It's double sewn inside, which I have on my little military pillow, and I have a little 40 degree sleeping bag. And this is the bug net, or the overquilt, so that when you're sleeping at night, you just pull this over. It gives you 10 more degrees of heat inside. So,
what sort of situations have you slept under?
The first time I used one of his bags, I used on my first trip. I was using this tarp in his bag. It was a 40 degree bag in thunderstorms, and did not get wet. And I forgot my top quilt, so a guy loaned me a light down jacket. It got down to 38 degrees, and I was in his 40 degree hammock, and I didn't even need the jacket. I slept comfortably because I could pull the sides in, and this environment top here has buckle cinches, and then this is all got the down in it, and I can adjust. It's fully adjustable here for adjusting your sides up and down. You've got adjustment straps here, and it never has to touch the ground, because when you undo it, you just undo it and start stuffing it in the bag. Then when you hook it up with a strap, pull it out as you go to each strap.
I really do like that suspension.
And then I make natural wet lines here for water when it comes down. And I slept in that last night, and I ended up kicking my sleeping bag off and sleeping in shorts.
Yeah, well, it was hot last night.
It was a very nice night last night. And the moon woke us up. Then I have a little stool, and I just have a little pad I make to get in. And that's all I do. And this tarp here, I just treat it every year and keep it together.
Ripstop?
It's a old ripstop tarp. You just take care of them and they last. If you take care of your equipment, it'll take care of you. This is over 25 years old, and it's still going strong, and it's still waterproof.
Yeah, you take care of it all the time, I can tell. Fantastic.
Okay, today we're going to talk about Nesmic, and we're going to build us a Nesmic style fire. Has anybody here ever heard or has not heard of Nesmic? Okay, Nesmic was a pen name for an author that wrote some outdoor books. His real name was George W. Sears, and it was in the mid-1800s, and he was one of the original American bushcrafters, if you want to call it that. He would go out in the woods with a minimal kit, and he would live out there for weeks at a time. He made his own bug dope and insect repellent. He carried him an axe and a little haversack, and he just had minimal gear. Of course, at the time they didn't have nylon and synthetics. He used little canvas tents and stuff like that. So when he would go out there, he would build a fire. And not just any fire, he had his particular way of building it. That's what we're going to do here today. I'm sure everybody knows the star fire and the TP fire and all that. Well, he had a different way of doing it. And I believe the reason he did this is my theory only. If you notice in that shed over there, the way the fireplace is built, it creates a suction, it creates a draw to draw the smoke and everything up through there. And that's called the Venturi effect. If you've ever seen a nuclear plant that have those cooling towers, that get narrow in the center. Well, as heat rises and goes through that narrow chamber, it speeds up, creating velocity. And when it does that, it creates a little bit of a suction underneath and continues to pull that. And that's how fireplaces work, and that's even how carburetors on cars work before we had fuel injection. Without that Venturi effect, we would have no cars, probably. We wouldn't have fireplaces or chimneys, because that's a one of the laws of physics, the way that works. I don't know all the details, but I know that it works. So this fire is designed, in my mind, to work with a little bit of that Venturi effect. And we're going to build one here and demonstrate it a little bit. He would say to take some hand junks. He called them hand junks, or a billet, piece of wood like this. And you'd set a couple down. Let's find a couple good ones here. We'll do this one here. And then he would put a backlog, a nice big backlog behind it. And what he would also do, especially in the wintertime, was he would build a reflector behind it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have built a reflector with some boards up behind it. And what this will do, this backlog and these other logs, and with this reflector, it builds sort of that Venturi effect, and it draws the smoke up that reflector, which will draw air into the front. And he would take several logs, usually larger than this, and lay them across here. And he would actually use a lot of green wood most of the time because it burnt longer, but only certain green woods. Most of your green wood don't burn, but some will, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. He would say to go down and find you a good hickory tree, a good maple tree, or a birch, because they have oils in them and stuff that'll make them burn when they're green. And hickory's one of the best. It'll burn green or dry. Stuff like red maple doesn't burn very good, but it will burn if you get fire hot enough. Come here, Mason. Get this thing going.
Don't be afraid of it. It only hurts your hand.
Just like this on the bottom here.
Remember, drop, drop, and roll.
Go ahead and light it, and I'll move this where I need to.
Isn't that what you used to
Hold it down some.
Well, I don't know about the 50s, but they told us that in the 60s and the 70s.
The 80s too.
Actually, I think they said stop, drop, and roll. We should go drop, drop, and roll.
Get your butt, get back. Good fire, man.
Now, I'm not going to be trimming my beard here, so. You ever see that show with the guy out west? What's his name? He's not a survivalist, but he's got the big beard and the hair, and he lives out in the Washington State Forest.
Oh yeah, Legend of somebody.
Legend of Mick Dodge.
Yeah, Mick Dodge.
One of his friends had a big beard about like this, and the next time he went to see him, it was like this. He said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I was burning some brush. Caught his beard on fire." So Nesmith would build this fire because he wanted it to last all night. He built a different, smaller fire for a cooking fire, but this was his warming fire that he would use all night. And what he would do, he would cut down, like I said, some green wood, like some maple or hickory, and he would get logs about 6 inches diameter. He'd probably use a 10 to 12 inch log as the back.